Nice to see David again. I saw you yesterday, David. It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
And I'll be hopefully speaking to Mr. Janego on what we talked about yesterday. So,
Excellent.
Refresh, not repair. That's the new tagline.
It is.
So just a bit of an update, and let's just try and put some strategy together for this year. A couple of things. Have you all become aware of the construction playbook? I mean, some of you may have more than others, but I don't know whether have you seen the construction playbook that was issued by the government?
No, I don't think so.
So
yes,
missed that one.
Okay. All right. Well, you probably want to have a look at it because a couple of reasons. Really. One, it's obviously slap bang in the sort of stuff we do, but the construction playbook is probably, in my opinion, one of the best pieces of work the government have done for some time. Would be my view, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is it tries to start to talk a little bit about joining up the sector and thinking about fairness generally in terms of the way we do projects, longer projects for contractors rather than having to price on one or two schemes. So they're talking about programs and not projects. They're talking about making sure prime contractors, a few of them on the phone here, pay their subbies and people fairer. So there's an expectation that's going to have to get better. But there's also quite a lot around competency and qualifications, not just qualifications, but competency post-Grenfell. So making sure there's competency out there. Massive thing on health and safety, but I've never thought you'd hear the government say this. They actually said mental well-being is equal, if not more important than physical, because mental well-being, bad mental well-being causes all the physical ones in the first place. So that was big, and then there's a massive push on digital. We've got to start using digital. We've got a MMC and all this sort of stuff and social value. So it's where there's if you Google construction playbook Fergus Harrendans. Fergus Harrendans is the deputy director of construction in Bays, and he's this sort of, I don't know if you met Fergus. He's all right. He's Fergus. He get him on the phone. It's difficult to get rid of him off the phone. Actually, speaks quite a long time. But he's the main man behind this construction playbook, and he did a video announcement or video presentation webinar 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, and it's an hour long with Q&A. But the actual bit that he presents is about 25 minutes, and it's exactly everything I've just said to you. So it's that. So it's mandatory for central government from the 1st of January.
Yeah. And
it will go into local partnerships after that, and they expect to implement it within 3 years. That's what they want to do. So it's really important that we look at it, particularly if you're dealing with the public sector, because it is the context. So I see Mark, you've obviously Mark French. I see you've obviously had a look at it.
Scott Corey, we've had quite a bit of work and looking at that and trying to see where we can feed it in across the business already, like I say, the central government procurement schemes.
So just so you know, Pagaba, we're going to embrace it because it's pretty much how we run our business, or try to run our business anyway. So we're quite keen on that. Interestingly enough, the government's own procurement strategy around CCS, I'm not so sure they adopt it, but we'll see how that sort of works. But certainly, but the reason I think it's important for us is the context is technology, digital, competency, not just qualification, health and safety, mental as well as physical, fairer, being able to. So all the stuff we're talking about is there. So this idea of maybe looking at an industry-wide accident book, working with these other things is now probably vital, really. So that was it, really. So I just wanted to. So it's worth just hunting that out, guys. Really, I think would be.
Yeah, it's easy. I've just downloaded it, so
yeah,
it's easy to get. Just type in Google and you go straight to the government website.
Yeah, what you've seen there is the actual document, which is good. It's quite well written, actually. There's like 12 key principles, which is based on. But if you find the Fergus Harrendans webinar, it's on something called Leaders Events, I think, or Event Leaders or something. It's on YouTube a couple of weeks ago. I was on it actually. But if you see that, then he explains it as well. Martin, as well as just reading it. So anyway, so that's where we are. So I thought it'd be useful for a couple of things really. I dropped you a note I just want to try and, recapture everybody's ambitions for this year on this, because we're now working quite hard on this technology in the background. So I'm going to let Charlie give us an update on the tech, where we are on that, as a pilot scheme. And then I was going to fill you in a little bit more on some stuff I'm doing in the background around stuff around inductions and health and safety and that, and just see where we sort of go on from there. Is that okay as an agenda, guys?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, Charlie, can you? Hi, John. On the radio there, were you?
Well, apologies. I was delayed by something. I couldn't get over. Yeah, but nice to see you.
You're on the sort of James O'Brien show, were you?
Unfortunately, I was at BBC Radio Teesside, so it's quality partridge. I'm telling you, if that means anything to anyone. Nice as Thin Lizzy.
So there you go. Okay, Charlie, can you just give us a project update, please, on our site, please?
Yeah, sure. So I think I put most of it in the note I sent around yesterday, but I went to see the guy developing it last week. So he's got kind of early stages. You'll see the picture I've sent you. I was quite impressed with it, to be honest, how far it's gone along, how it's looking. It looks, the circuit board and everything looks robust. It's not going to have the moving parts or anything like that. So it all looks decent. It's pretty small. I think what we're looking at really is trying to make it a credit card size. It's already half the size of that, but it'll be quite a bit thicker. So I think we're looking to kind of make it a little bit larger and quite a bit thinner. And then we can put it where an ID card would go, on PPE and that kind of thing. In terms of like battery life, that's going to be lasting about a day on its current kind of transmission rate that we're looking at of getting data out. I don't think we need to have the that'll be on a data push out of every 1 to 2 seconds. I don't think we need that much. So potentially battery life could be a lot longer than that. And then in terms of testing, we're probably looking at about a month to 2 months, I think, before we can get our hands on it. So I think it would be good to sort of have a meeting face to face, hopefully, past all the COVID restrictions as well, and then we can have a look at it properly. But there's a few sort of things which I think we need to talk about regarding it. One is there's an option of putting a wireless charger in it. I'd like to get everyone's opinion on that. And secondly, something which I thought of the other day was, what are we going to be doing with kind of turning it on and off? Are we having a switch on it, or is it just going to run constantly? Because I think if it was to run constantly, yes, that'd be great, and it would be less parts and things. But I think a lot of people have issues with, if it's connected to your job, they probably want to turn it off at the end of the day and not have it connected to your job anymore. So I think that's something which we might need to discuss as well.
Is there the option to have a soft or a hard turn off? Could you at night, automatically, if you there's ways of doing it in software where maybe you're working 8 till 6, as soon as you clock off, it turns itself off, or can you just press a button on your app and there's ways of doing stuff like that, do you think? Or
I don't know. I was thinking also, because if we're kind of logging in via like BioSite and stuff and things like that, almost using a proximity, it just turns off once you leave site.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you'd need, if we're going to go out to the wider market, and the white van men, they're not going to have that if they're going around someone's house and they need to do their timesheets and stuff. So we do need other options for that.
Okay, so you might just want to give us an options appraisal on that, please, Charlie. I mean, I just had a couple of things onto it. One is I just want to remind everybody what we're intending it to try and do, because it's not going to, it's not the kitchen sink in that sense. It's about coordinates and authentication, and then it will then hopefully connect you to a bunch of services that are relevant, and those services, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things we've started to think about. We haven't, we've got a couple of people we've approached, but we haven't approached one of them. But the idea is this would be a low cost, GSM based, not Wi-Fi, device that could last a couple of 3 days without a lot of charging, and is able to be used in harshish environments, which and doesn't interfere around telephony in terms of being secure and that for certain types of sites. But the idea is it's about coordinates, where you are, therefore where you've been, and identification and therefore authentication. So a couple of things we talk about. There's some discussions around CSCS cards and maybe competency cards. I've been working with a new awarding body who are looking to introduce a non-CSCS card approach purely around competencies. You know, the CSCS card is prone to fraud and a bunch of, you know, all the sort of stuff you guys have told me in the past. So there's an opportunity to work with them very early on, and that would authenticate against that. There's an opportunity to work with, if you link this into the construction playbook, because I'm going to go and try and have a meeting with Fergus Harrington's about a number of things, this being one of them. Whether or not it'll be in Zoom or face to face, I don't know yet. But I'm working with, just so you know, Faithful and Gould, Terry Stocks. He's if you know Terry at all, he used to be MHCLG, and he's the F&G lead into government. So he's sort of thick as thieves with Fergus, and Terry's quite a good friend of mine. So I'm hoping to get, you know, well, Fergus has agreed to meet me anyway. So what I want to talk to him about is on this fairer system. If we can include a service whereby you link it to, say, a Zero Accounts or one of the accounting people, then maybe there's a timesheet type of facility, which is one of the core things we talked about, where we can get somebody like Zero or Free Agent or Sage or somebody to do the heavy lifting on the cost. So, as you know, trying to work out a financial model is something that we identified earlier on. Gareth mentioned it, because there's devices kicking around at 50 to 80 euros, I think, kicking around. Of this sort of, but I think they're very one-dimensional. Whereas I think we want to be an ecosystem, if we can. So I've got that going, and then I suppose the other thing I wanted to try and do is can we link this into induction and also an accident book? How do we? I mean, do we really feel? I mean, there's quite a lot of health and safety, you know, experts on this call. If we had, I have a vision. There's 1.5 million people turn up for work in our industry on sites pretty much every day, you know, in various guises, you know, obviously predominantly subcontractors and whatever. But if we had an industry accident book, a bit like the black box approach for the airline industry, do we think, you know, I think that's massive value. I think that's valuable. I think it's valuable in a number of ways. I think it's valuable to Morgan Stanley, ISG, Yonder, you know, Wilmots. Because as long as the data is done on a GDPR protected, anonymized basis, a lessons learned, exactly the way the aerospace industry does it. And then I also think that data might be quite valuable to government in terms of linking it into the HSE. And I'm just wondering, you know, if we started to go down this route, would we get commitment? Would we get people saying that's a great idea? Or would we get people saying, no, my health and safety data is mine and I don't want anybody to know about it? I wanted to know that.
So, Gerard, I think the challenge would be that as long as it's anonymised, then there's no real reason why any other organisation should worry about it. So IPAF tried to do this, and they still do. So if you have an IPAF accident, if you have an accident with a MUPE, there's an IPAF accident book, and you're supposed to log it, but rarely do they. The amount of IPAF incidents occur in the industry, and if you look at the IPAF accident book, it's fairly limited, I suspect. So if we were going to do that, we would have to do some real clever marketing to say, look, this is for the... Now, the people that are sitting on this call, and I can't speak for Mark or Mark, but we're on this call because we're interested in enhancement and progression, and in fairness, if we've had an incident that we think is of value, we'd share it with each other anyway, because we know each other and we're mates. An anonymised accident book, I think, would be really powerful, because so for me, the challenge I face is when we're trying to really look at accident trends and you break them all down. Even an organisation of my size, we don't really have enough to set proper trends. Because we have in total, say, say 200 accidents, but when you look at them, you'll have one in this category, one over there, one over there. Now, actually, if I could look at an accident book and go, bloody hell, of the 3 million people that came to work, that incident occurred 1,500 times across the industry. I don't need to know that it happened on one of Mark's jobs or one of the Mark's jobs. That would be really powerful, and that's where I can almost guarantee that both the Marks will use the Office of National Statistics reports, but they're not helpful as we'd like, because they break them down into areas that we look at and go, I can use some of it, but I can't use all of it. That's my opinion. I don't know if the other Marks have got an opposing view.
So where I am with this is absolutely 100% on the anonymised data. It needs to be clean data. So you have to struggle to in the input. It's only what you get out is only as good as what goes in the first instance. I think so, or a couple of sponsors, one being the HSE in the first instance, maybe Build UK as well, and start coming in, those type of organisations. If we can get their buy-in and their publicity, then that would trickle down through. It needs to be in there to who fills it in as well, whether it's a PC or the employer. Because what you don't want is three different the individual, the subcontractor and the contractor all filling in the same data, and it needs to be forward, because it would be another action to do. Any input,
so it's got to be easy, Mark. It's got to be easy to do.
Need to be high level.
Okay.
Correct. So, go. Sorry, that's me.
Yeah, Jackson, Mark F. Were you?
Yeah. Go on, Mark.
I think Build UK have sort of tried to do this many years ago, and when you've got sort of 25, sort of 30, in fact it was UKCG at the time when we were looking at having this national sort of orientation stroke induction process, and some were prepared to do it, some weren't prepared to come on that journey as well, so it sort of fell short. But I think the industry-wide accident book is definitely, like you say, you get some high-level sponsors, is great, but more importantly, the thing that needs to come out of it is that shared learning platform. Any form of trend analysis is great, but unless there is a meaningful shared learning from there that gets to the right people when they need that information, and that is key with any of the learning outcomes, is that it needs to be relevant to individuals at the right time, or they can get that information at the right time, rather than when it's not necessarily relevant.
Okay, Jackson.
Just to share something, really, I was reading on the BBC website last week, and actually it was around the HS2 project, and it was quite a negative article actually, and it was around the biosite system, and they're trying on HS2 to sort of have an integrated access control system and data analytics shared between all of the PCs involved in that. Now there was some criticism in the article around harvesting of data, but what it made me thinking, we have biosite on our projects here. But I was thinking probably worth speaking to a couple of those access companies, because I think a lot of us use those companies, and interested just from a technical standpoint, understanding what the API is on the back of that, and how do the different systems actually output their data or input the data. Because we're going to have a combination of Biosite, Datascope, all these other companies, and just trying to understand that. But I thought it was quite interesting that this sort of approach is what's being looked at on HS2 at the moment.
I mean, there's two principles, isn't there? There's Biosite and MSite. I think Biosite are the entrepreneurs, and MSite are the sort of other type of organisation. Now, I think some of you use an integrated solution where it does induction as well as access control, but you can just choose the access control as well, can't you? So it depends on that. But I think just as a quick comment on a couple of things you said. One, the ONS data is not dynamic, and it's historical, so it's not really helping. And it's well, this is how you get it. and then you've got to interpret it. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's clever or smart data. So, so if we were to say to the government, look, if we were to do this way and smart data and all that, and the government could actually, if they wanted it, they could just change the law and say every building site has to use this accident book, so they could change the law overnight. That's one thing. Or we could have a common accord between the principals, and they could say, well, okay, you guys could say, well, we're all going to use it. So that then makes it sort of, adopted. Or me as a framework provider, I could go to Scape and others with the right sort of solution, and we could actually do it. So there's a number of ways we could do it. Government with an easy one, but government changing policy sometimes is a bit slow. But Fergus Harrington's with the construction playbook, this might be an opportunity to do that, is what I'm saying. So I think on the anonymized data, I think that's quite easy to do, because what you want to know is a bit like Martin said. Look, there's been 1,500 incidents with cranes this month. I mean, hopefully there isn't that many, but and they're all of this type of category. It doesn't have to say, as you say, where it was, but all of a sudden, if you know there's a lot of crane stuff going on and you've got a lot of cranes on your sites, you can, when you have your crane meeting, you can say, this is the sort of stuff that's going on at the moment in our sector. Let's make sure we don't become another statistic. That's the sort of thing which I think it's so I think there's opportunity there. Gareth and Dave yonder, what's your views of this?
I think the other thing you need is the non-accident data.
The near misses is what.
And also when there isn't. The problem with just taking accident data is it doesn't portray the accident data in the bigger picture. So if you say, because there's a different number of people turn up on site and there's different trades happening and the different stages of the project, you need something that turns around, because crane accidents might go up by, I don't know, a third in summer. Yet in summer, crane usage might go up, might treble. Right. So if crane use, and people turn around, if you've just read the accident data, you go, oh God, crane usage, the accidents in cranes goes up by a third in summer. Let's not use cranes in summer. Well, no, the actual usage of cranes, so the data shows that there's less, right, as a percentage. But if you just record the accident data, you don't have enough data, because you're only recording when something goes wrong, not when something is actually right. And that's a problem with a lot of the data at the moment, is it doesn't look at it in a bigger picture. It only looks at it when something goes wrong. And then I think the problem is firms are that they don't like to be preached to, but I think they'd like to look at data to change their own ways of working, but a holistic data approach, not just when there's accidents.
Okay, so I think that's a valid point, adding the near misses, because that gives you that third, fourth, and fifth dimension. The near misses and the other stuff. So if we were cute and clever about the data we collected in this book, this accident book, what you're saying is that the non-accident data might actually have a bigger impact on accidents than the accident data.
Because and Gerard, I've read the same book on black books thinking, and I agree. But
I read it because you gave it. You told me to.
I know. But the thing is, the black box records all the data, so they then can put in the accident data from all the data. So a plane took off with a westerly wind, right, and one time out of 10,000 times it had an engine failure. All right.
That's I get it. So what you're saying is, in order to fulfill the black box approach to construction, it's not just about recording when things go wrong. It's about starting to gather a lot of evidence about what is happening every day, and then we use systems. And what we have the benefit of now that maybe the airline industry didn't have 10, 20 years ago is computing power and artificial intelligence is much stronger. So if we get the data points right, then we can probably build quite a progressive response. But in fact, we could probably do a better job than them. So I get that. Okay. Gareth?
Yeah.
So what?
Go on.
Sorry, go on, Gareth.
Yeah, I think from a practical point, that obviously the contractors and different parties are going to have different processes. I think what you're looking at is data points, and if you got a good enterprise architect on board, is how to standardize that in a collective way, and then present it back. So what I would say is not necessarily asking PCs or clients or whoever to be changing their processes behind it, but submitting that and a process within that to standardize it. I think when you start asking people to do their own process, then go to a website and submit something else behind the back of it, and the more work and more procedures behind it, it's going to drag it out. And I think it needs to be as painless and as user friendly as possible. If it's just a case where they dump something and then they got a process of standardizing, automizing to present and visualize it, that's going to be the winner.
Okay. So I think that's a really valid point. So we're not introducing a new system as the contractor and subcontractor. Carry on as you are, but a couple of little minor tweaks. If you can connect it into this, you're going to get all this extra stuff. That's your point. There you go. And I think that's look. We have to remember we are in a much better place now technologically than we were 10 years ago. So these things should be a lot. We certainly should be able to do most of the heavy lifting using fairly cost-effective tech now. Would be my hope.
It's not new technology, and it's out there being used in other things. When you think about the whole thing about stuff like Tesco, and you collect your club card points to know what you want to buy, it's the whole thing behind it is there's less exactly that. When we talk about GDPR, as long as GDPR regulations, we won't be able to personally identify anybody through the data we collect. As long as we follow those principles, then we're not ethically doing anything wrong.
I use an analogy that Dave Newitt gave me actually whenever I talk to people now. It was when we were having fish and chips in Sheffield, and it was your colleague, I think, who said, Spotify, they've got a computer about this big on the desk which has got the world's music on. And he said, but then the building next to it, 4 floors, is all the computers that work out how me, you, and everybody else listen to it, and when we listen to it, and does all the work on actually working out what we should be listening to. So it's like, the data's a dead easy bit. It's actually the intelligence bit. I think you built the data center, didn't you, Dave? I think. But so that's the way I see it, and I think you're right. I think the technology. So it's really coming up with the business case, isn't it, and the concept, Gareth, really. So okay.
And understanding an agreed metric that we want to capture.
Yeah. So I think for the first time, there's probably some sort of a common accord available to us through the construction playbook, through what we've learned through this pandemic about, because you can link it to, I think Dave's point about the near misses and the additional data is extremely right. And if we linked it into health and well-being and happiness, I think that seems to be a new term that's coming out. I don't know if you've seen recently in the past few days, but the mood beam stuff has been all over the news. It's been on Radio X, been in news now. We've got quite a big study now going, and I've asked Charlie to look at a way that we can make it mandatory almost on Pagabo frameworks. That but when I say mandatory, we're not going to force people to spend a lot of money, but what we might do is just make it available, and then we can say Pagabo is actually takes, so we've got some ideas now, but that's why I really want you guys to use it, make sure it works, and then we'll work out the costings afterwards. So this isn't a money making exercise, it's more about improvement. So health and safety is one thing, and I think the time's right. If we could deal with timesheets and attendance, we can deal with payments, we can deal with all that sort of stuff. And I feel confident we'd get a finance company to get involved in that. Because if you've got a finance company, you maybe eventually could get access to 1 million people every day, subbies, which is their target group. That'll be great data, I'd have thought. And then number 3 is the qualifications competencies, and really, introducing to this new CSCS card alternative, more online training, more accessible. And I think they're the 3 anchor tenants for this, in my opinion: accidents and information around the site, just to improve it, payments, and qualification. And if we got that data, I would have thought the customer would not just be us, but it could also be the government, and it could be also another load of people. So if we build that's in my mind is where I think we're going with this. And obviously the device that we're talking about, all it will do is locate your coordinates and identification. So it gives you that marauders map piece, but then all these other services pop in. So if I've got a device on me, I walk in, however we scan it or however we do it, it then tells you everything about me, and then I've got my own data if I'm a subby, so I can get my invoice straight into Martin or to Mark or Mark, and that sort of side of it. So does that feel like something that's a bit simpler that we should be pushing rather than trying to be all things to everybody? That to me is where I think I am now. So okay, so that's what we're pushing on that. In terms of the device, I've asked Charlie to start to put some, using our marketing company, to just put some design ideas around what this device could look like. So Charlie's now getting into the ribs of the technology physically. But it does look at the moment like a piece of C4 actually. So I don't think you'd be wanting it on your building sites at the moment. It looks a bit dangerous. But I think I don't know if you've instructed anybody yet on that, Charlie, but it would be useful to start to get that designed up. And then we need to, and then once we've got that, we can start to look at the physicalities of it and what have you. But I think that's sort of where we are. Does that make sense, everybody? So is everybody still happy to contribute to this project? Yeah, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's nice. Thank you for that. It's, it's a small amount of money in the scheme of things, but if we're all involved in it, I think then we all do it. And then if I get a meeting with Fergus Harrendance, I'll involve you all. And if it's a Zoom one, it'd be easier to include other people. So I might ask for contributors from this group, if that's okay.
Yep.
And if you're all, I don't think we need everybody, but all I'm saying is that I just want him to understand that, we've got some of the serious players behind this. So that's fine. Okay, so that's where we are with that. What else? Moodbeam. So are you all participating in the Moodbeam study, or have some of you not made that decision yet? Or
so Gerard, just ISG at the moment, we haven't made that decision as yet.
Yeah. Okay.
And Gerard, I've got my catch up with Charlie this afternoon, because unfortunately we've had to keep swinging it around. So it's this afternoon, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, I think 2 o'clock, 2:15, something like that.
Yeah, cool. That's good. I know it's in the diary again. I know. Apologies for keep moving it around, but
not a problem.
Stuff keeps getting in the way. This little virus that's flowing around the business is causing me grief at the minute. So we'll do it this afternoon because I'm in now for the day.
Okay.
Is there a reason why you're not jumping on it, Mark? M?
At the moment, we haven't put enough research into it as yet. I think it's probably one to take offline. I'm going to do, on the back of this call today, I'm going to do a catch-up call with Zoe and John James.
Yeah.
Just to show where we are with this particular project. I'm going to include Moodbeam in it and get the button pressed at that level. I haven't done that yet, Gerald, if I'm honest. So
no,
I don't want to commit.
Fine.
I don't want to commit before I've done that.
Yeah. Well, we still got units available. I mean, we took 500 off them, and I think we got rid of half of them. We've deployed half of them, and we've got half of the next half just about ready to go. So there's still a few left, but interesting enough, with the recent coverage, because they were on the BBC news channels and also radio, and also we got some coverage in the States. I don't know how that got picked up, but
and Channel 4 yesterday, Channel 4 London,
and it was on Channel 4 as well. So they're actually moving a bit now away from trying to focus it all on mental well-being, which can be seen as a negative thing. It's more about how happy are you, which I think is probably quite a good move for them. So the message is probably is simpler. I just think it could connect quite nicely with what we're doing in the eyesight piece and this whole sort of project. So if you need more information, Mark and Jackson, I'll speak to Charlie, and if you want me to have a conversation with you, Mark, as well, then please feel free.
Yeah, I did have quite a good conversation with Charlie with founders of Moodbeam, with a bit of feedback for them as well. So we have taken a look at it, but obviously I have to leave that call with Mark and the powers that be.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you for taking it. Dave, are you going to have a look at it? Mr. Newitt?
Oh, wait one second. Yeah, we'll do it. Gareth, just we need to just get organised, and but yeah, we'll definitely do it. The only thing is, we wanted to try it internationally, but then you've got different privacy laws. So in Holland, we're not allowed to do it. In Germany, we are allowed to do it.
Okay.
So we're going to try it. We are going to try it definitely on various different roles. But Gareth, I think Gareth will get hold of Charlie and we'll work out how we do that, and we'll get something organised.
Okay, thank you. And I think Mark F, you've got a few of these already, haven't you? You've actually trialled it on a few sites, but
yeah,
I don't know whether that needs a recalibration with Charlie just to get that back or not. I don't know.
They've set a project up in Melton. I know, speaking to the ops director on that project, he said that some people are using it and embracing it. Some people are finding it a bit of a faff to mess around with and uncomfortable. So,
well, the clip's a lot better than the band, Mark. The clip is, I mean, I think for me, I'm not a band person, so, and I get that, a lot of people aren't. So I think the clip is better. I think one of the things to come out of this study will hopefully be a better design for it. But it was me who took them. It was me who deployed them to your. That's that police job, isn't it, in Melton?
Yes, yeah, Melton, yeah.
It was me who took them there, actually. So
that's that project seems to be having its own problems with COVID as well at the moment. So.
Yeah, that was nothing to do with me, by the way. Just
no. It's, in fact, it's completely shut at the moment. So there we go.
Oh dear me. Okay, so that deals with the movie. So what else have we got on the agenda then, Charlie?
Did everyone get access to the Flex app?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the view on that then?
My view is, I've not looked into it in massive detail, I must admit, but it's a little rough around the edges at the moment. Probably needs some refining a little bit, but I think it's got potential.
So I mean that's nothing to do with us. All I've done there is introduce somebody who I know to you guys. It seems like quite a good idea. He's talking to people at Arco and Bunzel, who are a big health and safety, a big PPE provider, aren't they, and what have you. But I think have any of you tried it? Does it work? Is it the right thing? Is the issue the cost of it, or what's the view? Anybody
don't actually know the cost of it, I don't think, because he's given us a free month or two, but I do need to, I'll find out what the kind of subscription rate is.
Have any of you guys actually used it?
I've looked at it. We've got something quite similar that we've already deployed in the business. Right. So it's
okay.
Yeah.
So there are other products out there, Gareth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So
Gareth, can you send to Charlie what we use?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we do this within our business. But part of it is actually getting people to use the app, right? Yeah. So we apply stuff in our business, but probably only 20 or 30% of the people use it. So we're looking at the moment, how do we get a greater uptake in the usage of these sorts of things? Because it's one thing to invest in, but there's no point in investing in it if people don't actually go and use it. So Gareth can share some stuff with Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The interesting thing on the adoption, Dave, is if you're a subcontractor, you'd almost if it helped you stay fitter and more able, you'd sort of pay for it yourself, wouldn't you? Because every day's worth quite a lot of money to you. So if it's 30, 40 quid a month, or if that's what I don't know what the price is, but you know it's cheaper than the physio. If that means you never have a day off because of that, you'd be all over
To
it,
be
wouldn't you?
fair, Gerard, I've got with ISG used the same app as Yonder,
Yeah.
and it does pretty much what
What
that
Flex does.
app does, and that's paid for centrally and available to all our staff and workforce as well.
Okay, so well, if we can find out about that, I mean, only because we'll feed it back to Rob, and also Gareth, if you're able to share the pricing model.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I can send that across. It's the pricing we got is in euros, but it's transferable.
Yeah. Okay. It's a question. Just I suppose I forgot to ask you the question before. It was about induction. Do you think if there was an induction app which was simple, cost effective, and it was not available with the access, is access control and induction, do they have to be together?
No.
And so
they don't have to be, but it tends to be easier on the site teams. They tend to prefer a solution that does both.
But not every site has access control, does it?
No.
You know, for a bunch of reasons. Obviously, in London, you know, security ones are more relevant. But you know, in sleepy villages, maybe they're not, are they? I suppose. But
we look at integrating it, especially with some of the compliance aspects. So if you consider mostly our projects at the moment in Europe, they focus very heavily on the working time directives and making sure people aren't working more than they should. So it's compliance and right to works are a massive part behind it. And there's software out there which will integrate that compliance aspect along with, you know, qualification uploads and an induction process now. And they're really focusing some of these European companies around making sure that you induct people in a way so it's obviously COVID safe. They can do pre-inductions for coming to site, and there are sort of ways we can integrate that. But I can share the details of the companies we work with, and at least you can do some market research into it.
Yes, please. Martin, you were going to give me some information on the access products, I think, were you?
Oh, did I not send out the details for the contractors over to you?
No, I've not seen it.
Okay, sorry, I'll do that. Yeah, no, that's easy enough. Obviously, we use one primary one and are talking to another, but it's access control is varied on our projects. We don't have it on all of them, but we do use online pre-registration for everybody.
Yeah.
So which is equivalent to an induction for us, which is the pre-reg.
Yeah. I mean, the right to work thing is quite important on that. I've seen Wilmot Dixon develop their own, actually. I've seen their product through Martin Ward, actually. See, that's an interesting one again, because they have quite a good system.
We have 38,000 people complete pre-enrollment last year, Gerard.
Yeah. I've seen your product. It's good.
Yeah.
The interesting thing was you have this yellow and red card situation, don't you? Which is it's a bit like the old days where if you were a bit of a trouble causer, you'd have your photograph behind the pub, wouldn't you? And you wouldn't be allowed in, and they'd share it with all the local pubs.
Yeah, I think that's highly illegal now, Gerard, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Every operative has his own profile, and when you talk about competency and near miss reporting and things like that, if an operative is recording near misses and it's logged on his profile, and toolbox talk attendance is logged on his profile, and then it's all about, you go back to people feeling good about themselves and their kudos, then their profile grows, a bit like Airbnb and Uber. It's all about increasing people's sort of kudos, and that's what our platform can do. Is the guy turns up on a project, a build manager can look at it and he knows that he's got a good guy coming onto his job.
Yeah, have you ever seen the program Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Remember the one with the happy thing where you got the score?
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me a little bit of that, actually. Charlie Booker and all that. So, okay, I just wanted to pick up on that sort of bit. So if you could send me that, Martin, that would be useful.
Yeah, we'll do. No, absolutely.
And if you can share that other information, Gareth, that would be really quite good, really. So is the point on the flex? There's no real desire to rush out, and well, it's up to you. If you want to deal with a guy, you can deal with him. You don't need You don't need me to get involved in that. I mean, for me, I want to focus on the eyesight piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Could the other system that the two other organisations, so ISG, are using, could we just share the details of that around?
Yeah,
no problem.
Because it'd be useful to know what that is.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason of doing this is if the stuff. I mean, I know you guys. Health and safety is probably the best and most collaborative part of any business of the construction sector. I think if you had a lot of commercial people on here, nobody would be saying anything.
It's all a pretend, really, Gerard. We all hate each other.
Yeah.
Once we all get taken to the cricket and then we've had a few beers, we start telling each other the truth.
Yeah, that's good. Then. So good. So you'll be behind this industry accident, near miss event, incident AI managed book, then, won't you, Martin? You'll be all over it. So.
Definitely.
Okay. The app we're using is €2.50 per person per month.
Yeah, that's quite cost effective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Gareth, if you just do a round robin on that, if you can.
Yeah, I'll send it.
That's really good. So, okay. Right. What else is on the agenda? Anything else on the agenda, Charlie?
Off the top of my head, I don't think we've gone through the main bits.
Well, I mean, I don't know what people's perception is of where we think we're going to be in 3 or 4 weeks, but I would be really keen to get everybody together in a room, just because I think, we were hoping to do that today, weren't we? But obviously, events have overtaken us. But I'm not so sure we can plan really at the moment because of what's going on. But it would be nice to really. I think it'd be good to get some designs circulated, please, Charlie, on what our view is. And then I think now we're focusing on these 3 areas. I think the accident piece. I think what we probably want to do, Charlie, is we want to try and grow a bit of a specification of what it is we want to try and achieve in each of those areas, because Dave's added quite a bit of interesting stuff in there today about the near misses, the information. So I think we should try and get a broader use case and almost like a customer journey or
it got me
in development terms, a story.
It got my thinking about sort of secondary kind of app links as well. Getting extra data. Would it be easy just to link straight into AccuWeather and things, and get your data from there rather than people recording stuff? And so I think that's sort of worth exploring.
Well, that was Gareth's point. There's loads of data points kicking around, and if you can connect them. But the thing is, what might be useful, Charlie, is if you can have 3, a spreadsheet with three tabs on, and that is we'll call that accidents. I appreciate it's not just accidents, time and attendance, and qualifications and competencies, and let's share that between us and write down. Just you don't need to be neat, guys, but all the things you want to see on those. And once we've worked out, a long list on each of those, then we can start to work out which ones already exist in third-party software and APIs or whatever, and do it that way. Because I think if we get the base case right, and then we take that to government, then I think we'll end up, because once we've got the base case right, we can go and find out, I can do a little bit more work with people to help looking at funding it, because, that might be the government, it might be free agent, it might be whatever, but HSE, and let's just try and get that. Is that, would everybody be happy if we to contribute to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've in a previous organisation, I've already got data points which you can get APIs from and share with you, Charlie.
That'd be really good. If Gareth, if you've got that, Gareth, that'd be really good, please.
I've got about a dozen, 22 dozen I can share across pretty quickly. Yeah.
Okay, so if you do that as a spreadsheet, then please, Charlie, and then also I want you to kick on and try and get some concepts. So I've said you can speak to our marketing people and just get some concepts of what.
Yeah, I've started the conversation with Ben already, and he's
what it looks like.
Ryan, so that is on with.
Yeah, Ryan. Okay, that's fine. Okay. All right, good. All right, anything else?
Next meeting.
Right, so let's get a next meeting now. I'm not so sure that'll be face to face, guys. I don't know how you all feel about that. What day is it today? It's the 21st. If it was the end of February, I think for business reasons you possibly can, but I wouldn't want to put anybody under any undue pressure. So maybe we go for the next one as virtual, and then hopefully the March one, if we can have a March one, will be face to face. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think we're probably more likely to achieve that, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
It's also far more likely we'll have something to look at physically as well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that. So similar time next month. Does that work for people? End of February.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I can't. What are you looking at? Week commencing the 22nd.
Yeah.
So I'm really busy that week, so I can only do Monday or Tuesday. Sorry.
That works for me.
I can either do 22nd or 23rd that week because I've got loads of leadership meetings in that week.
22nd. The 23rd would be better actually. The 22nd is I can't do that day, but the 23rd I'm absolutely. Did you say you could do Monday, Tuesday, or not?
Yeah, I can do 22nd or 23rd. Obviously, I'm not the only one on the meeting though.
23rd suits me.
Is everybody okay with 23rd? Similar time?
23rd's good. Yeah.
It works for me.
I might struggle, Jared, but I'll make sure somebody's with me from yonder as well for that.
All right, thank you, Gareth. And then Charlie, if we can get the spreadsheet circulating and just get those 3 tabs on it, and let's put some stuff into that. So I can go through the structure of that if you want, and your review on our one-to-one on Monday, Charlie, if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll add it.
I think you've probably got it sorted. But I think that's and if I hear from Bays, Fergus, or anybody in between, I'll circulate that. And you know, this is an open environment, so if we can get other people involved, that's fine. And if you could just, you know, if you can try and conclude on the mood beam, please, Mark and Dave and Gareth, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Any other business? I think I've told all of our staff we're having 3 Christmases this year. We're having, when lockdown finishes, Easter. I'm not so sure about that one now. And then Christmas. That's what I'm having.
I like the thought process.
Well, I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm a great believer in visualizing things, and I think all the talk about negative stuff, I do find that quite difficult to, from a motivational perspective.
Oh, definitely. You've got to. I bought myself. Somebody was talking about cricket. I bought myself tickets for England India at Old Trafford, and people were like, "Why have you bought tickets?" I was like, "You've got to buy them in hope. You've got to buy them in hope."
Something to look forward to. Otherwise, there's nothing to live for, is there?
No, I totally agree. Totally agree.
But no, well, I've got all the tickets I had for bands last year have all been rolled forward. So I was supposed to be seeing a Fontaines DC in March in Leeds. I'm not so sure that's going to happen.
I think March might be a bit early.
Yeah.
Little Mix are split up as well since, so you won't get to see all of them, will you?
Who's that?
Little Mix.
Little Mix.
Gerard, you're gonna have to give back your Little Mix tickets.
I've got my Pet Shop Boys tickets.
Fontaines DC would be a good gig though.
Yeah, well, the latest album's pretty cool, isn't it? You know, it's sort of thrash Irish punk, isn't it? With a little bit of cheeky chappy in it, sort of thing. So it's
my really good friend,
yeah.
field manager. So,
is he?
Yeah. He had 12 months of global tour last year, cancelled on him for COVID, so he's been unemployed since. So
good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a real shame for people like that because you know, I mean, it's moved on a bit now, but a few months ago when they were going on about when the government came out and said, well, can't these people retrain as like in the construction sector? And it's like, well, hang on a second, they spent their life training to be a musician. What, you could just go get to lay a few bricks because of this? I mean, I'm not so sure that's right, but I just hope we get back to it.
Maybe the government could retain us as government.
Yeah, well, if that's it, I was listening to that the exact phone in on it was on a Saturday morning, right? And I was listening, and they had this doctor. She actually said, well, she was asked about it for musicians and actors. Well, why don't they just retrain? And the guy said, "Well, you're kidding." He said, "Well, why don't you retrain to be a footballer?" Well, that wouldn't be appropriate. Well, why is it less appropriate?
It shows no empathy, doesn't it?
Oh,
It shows totally and utterly no empathy.
Thank you.
But anyway, okay, all right, that's good then. So thanks for your time today, guys. So we know what we're doing. We've got some good actions there. So let's just keep the momentum going, because I want to. I think it'd be quite interesting. So keep abreast of the construction playbook, because I think that's where the direction of travel is going to be. Certainly is for the public sector. So that's good. Sorry, there's a bit of a noise you might hear behind me now. Got a hand dryer just over there. So apologies for that. So that's it. So I'll see you in a month, and then if there's any other things, let's just get connected up. But if you can send me that information about M-Site and Biosite, Martin, that'd be good. And then and just let everybody else connect up. Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gerard.
Thanks. Good.
All right. Good. Nice to see you all again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.